Good afternoon, delegates. I'm moving Amendment B, but I'd be perfectly happy if you voted for C and D. Can I, just on a personal note, welcome you to the Edinburgh International Conference Centre. An age ago, I was the person responsible as Head of Economic Development in the city for instigating and getting this conference centre built in the teeth of opposition from most of the majority Labour administration. I just mentioned that so you know a little bit about economics. The unamended motion has much to commend it. It moves us well beyond what I think were the very vague positions on currency of the original Growth Commission document. After 3 very well attended and discussed national assemblies, I think we must respect a victory for the membership in that now this party, this afternoon, will for the first time be committed in an independent Scotland to introducing our own national currency. Whatever happens, you're going to have to sell that on the doorstep. And you'll sell it this way. If we don't control our currency, we don't control our economy. We don't control our interest rates. We cannot do the things that we want to do. We cannot borrow, the Scottish Government cannot borrow to the extent that it wants to do. We can't invest to the extent that we need to change the economy unless we control our currency. And in fact, it is the poorest in the land who pay the highest interest rates for survival. And if we control our own currency and our own banking system, then interest rates will be lower. Now, unfortunately, the unamended motion has a vague element. It's still vague on the precise timing of introducing the new currency. Now, I don't want this debate, and I really reject the notion that this debate is about a divide between those who want to convince and those who are rushing ahead with a lack of judgment. Of course, we must have a majority for independence, hopefully in next year's referendum. But when you're on the doorstep, Scottish voters are canny, and they're going to ask you this question. Okay, SNP, you voted to have to have a Scottish currency. When are you going to introduce it? And you will get your 6 tests out, and you will say, when we've got through all of these, and they'll not be convinced. The problem is a practical, political one. If you want to have a currency, if you're going to go to the Scottish electorate and say, we want a Scottish currency, then you're going to have to tell them when. Leaving the door open will lose votes, not gain them. On sterlingisation, because Amendment B is opposed to sterlingisation. Of course we have to keep sterling for the shortest time period until we get our currency up and running. But prolonged sterlingisation has a major time bomb built into it. If we have, in the previous referendum, 2013, we wanted to keep the pound, but we wanted to keep it in conjunction with the Bank of England, with Scottish representatives on the Bank of England. If we keep the pound just by ourselves, then there is no way that a Scottish central bank can create the reserve currency that's needed, the reserve assets that are needed in order to bail out any bank or any banking system in Scotland that gets into trouble. Now, you can say, well, that's a long-term risk, and it's not a major one. But again, I warn you, in the referendum debate, Nicola or whoever, or Derek or Keith, will have a finger pointed at them.
George, that's your time.
Will have a finger pointed at them, and they'll be asked, how do you protect your banks in the event of a crisis if you can't create your own currency? The 6 tests, ladies and gentlemen, are there not to make life easy, but to make life simple for other people. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go. We're going to be on the doorstep. Let's just say, let's have our own currency and have the courage to implement it.
Thank you, George. If I could ask Bill Ramsey to come to the podium, if I could.